Says Mr. Whitaker, I'm a fan going all the way back to Blue Velvet. In what ways have your role preferences changed over time and why?
I tend to take all my roles to see if there's something I can learn from them. So as I've changed and grown, I don't really have any set thing. I don't know how they. It's not a good answer to that. I just go by my gut, and if I'm about to learn something, if I'm a little afraid, it means I'm going to learn something. And I like that feeling. So I walk into it.
What specific advice would you have for young people who want to work on behalf of progress and racial change? What advice would you have for them beyond what you talked about in your lecture today, which is very detailed? If you had one piece of advice for them, inspirational advice, as they're moving forward, what would that be?
Recognize your own ability to make change. Recognize your own power to actually make a difference.
It says today's Supreme Court has determined that affirmative action should be curtailed on college campuses. This nation does not appear to recognize the existence of slavery in our past and the debt owed to folks in the present. What are your thoughts on that?
I think there's a path to healing. I think one of the pathways is to pay some recompense. Because first is like the first point, which is to be acknowledged. So you acknowledge these people as students. Second point is to understand. But then you have to go into a place of recompense, of reconciliation. And I think this form this form allows us to be able to truly pay back some of the losses, some of the inequities that have existed. It's more complicated, but I think that it needs to be looked at.
Okay. Thank you. If you could recommend the three most important actions that we can take to ensure that our democracy continues and reflects the people that it represents, what would those three things be?
Choose what you believe, state what you believe, and act to make what you believe become true.
Okay. This is an interesting question. What was the most important regret that you have? What's he got on. Right. That's a good answer, actually. And I think this probably has to do with your career in general. Is there something that was there a fork in the road that you would have gone one way rather than the other? Is there something you could have done differently? What would that be? Make it better.
I think I would have realized that I don't really have a lot of regrets about the choices that I made.
I actually have a question. I have a microphone. What is the film that you appreciate the most? And I asked that question because I remember an interview I saw with Al Pacino, and somebody asked him the same question. And his answer stunned them because it wasn't what they thought it would be. Now, maybe you, but he said that his the role that he appreciated the most was actually Scarface, not the roles he won the Oscar for, a role that many people would not have assumed would have been the one that he would have chosen. Right. Is there a film that you worked on that you take particular pride in that wasn't recognized, or can you tell us what your favorite role has been and why?
I think it was.
My favorite is Ghost Dog. Okay, so Wu-Tang Clan did the soundtrack, right? Wu-Tang.
Probably Bird. Yeah. I was young, I had never done that. I was really scared. I was really frightened. And I realized I just had to totally commit myself. And if I failed, I would fall. But I wanted to be dancing in the tree. I'd just fall. You know, and I learned a lesson from that. You know, I learned to believe in myself a little more.
Regarding your dialect in the last King of Scotland, what process did you initiate and maintain to maintain consistency in the scenes, the dialect that you were using?
I always was pretty much in that character. So I was always speaking with an African accent. I had started working on Kiswahili before I left for months. So by the time I got there, I was really keyed in. So I convinced myself in my head that I spoke Kiswahili first and English second. So I just stayed in that mindset.
If there's one person throughout all history you can sit down and speak to, who would that be? Say me? She said me. You are an architect of change.
Probably I think I would like to say Martin Luther King.
Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King. Okay. This says, recently watched Serving Life. It was amazing, by the way. What was your motivation to produce this, and what did you take away from the experience?
Serving Life was about prisoners who care for dying prisoners. You know, those who they were incarcerated for life. And I think the movie was to deal with compassion, because you have to decide whether you can still care about these prisoners who've done horrible things in this prison, and to test in yourselves how you can forgive, how far you go in terms of forgiveness.
Okay, we have two more. What advice would you give to parents about the best way to inspire their kids? Yeah, that's a deep one, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're serious in Phoenix about these questions.
No, that's a serious one. It's tough. I think it's tough. To get them to get the passion. Build the passion. Dr. Whitaker.
Yes. I'm listening to you and trying to decipher this writing right here. So I apologize.
No, I think with my kids, I think I've seen the things that like to excite them and motivate them, and I've tried to encourage those things and try to funnel those things into the things that they need to learn about other things.
Okay. I have a question, another one based upon a card here, and it has to do with motivating people. How do you motivate people to act in their communities through other things than political activism? So the question, that's why I was trying to understand the question. So I think the question is, there's lots of ways to become involved civically and involved in your community, but they don't all have to be through politics. How does one use the arts, for instance, become active, or to use their skills in the arts to contribute to democratic processes in our society?
Well, the arts is about telling stories. It's about bringing those stories in front of people, whether it be music and song, or acting or being. The arts, you can influence people. Like right now, we're sending these films to these different places to try to get them to talk about certain films because subjects to come out. You can do that anywhere.
Okay.
Not just.
Okay. You mentioned earlier that shift in your own life from the dreams of an athletic career to moving towards an acting career and a life in the arts. What helped you make that decision? A lot of our young people that we work with, if you ask them what they want to be, 9 out of 10 of them will say LeBron James or Kamala Anthony or somebody like that. And they think that that's the only path that they can go through. And so the fact that someone of your stature made that decision and can stand here before us so successful doing so many wonderful things, I would really like to know, and some of the other folks in these cars, I'm putting this question together from several, would like to know what changed in your mindset to make that decision to go from one way to the other.
But from sports, it was something that I needed to play football to go to college. I need a scholarship, you know, so I got a scholarship for football. And then when I got hurt, I had to find another means, you know. And so I started looking for other means. I looked at things I liked, see if I could find it there, and I started pursuing music, you know. And that's what kind of guided me. It wasn't just leaving behind the dream of being wrong or something.
And the final question is about your focus in Africa. There seems to be most of your work, humanitarian work is in Africa, the places that you've done films, you produced and directed films about youth in Africa. So the question is, why Africa? That stood out in my mind in part because as an educator, there are still people who think that Northeast Africa is the Middle East, for instance. So a lot of folks can't even identify Africa on the map. But you have chosen to dedicate a lot of your work to a part of the globe that most people are either afraid of, know nothing about, or can't even place on a map. Why Africa?
You know, actually it started because I was working with gangs in Los Angeles. And then when I went over to Africa for the first time, I met child soldiers. And then they were talking to me about what was going on. And I heard the same stories. And so then I started to work with them. There's a much dire situation in some of the ones. And it's from that I just started to move into a passion of working there. You know, there's some connected ancestry there. But we have projects in Mexico, here, Myanmar. You know, I do have a lot of projects in Africa, but those youths, they guided me to know what I should do. I was trying to figure out how I could stand in, how I could help. And they helped me by telling me their stories.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen,